Good afternoon and welcome to this small meetup about AI-enabled product owner. We have Heidi and me today that will guide you through some topics about how you can use AI as a product owner. We're trying to consider how we can put AI into the picture of a cross-functional team. And what happens when a new powerful tool is introduced? How can we also look at this from the perspectives of the different roles in the team? We have considered the team coach or the scrum master, but we have also considered the collaborative teams. But today we are going to focus more on the product owner role. And what we have for you this afternoon is two parts, a little bit about AI in teams, some principles and use cases for a product owner. And we also have a small prompting exercise. So since this is about AI, of course, we also want to prompt a little bit. And in the second part, we'll look at the invest criteria. And then we'll finish with an AI-generated story map. So just to set the scene with AI development these days. So this model here was created some years ago or 1.5 years ago by OpenAI, but it's showing the levels of AI, starting with level number 1, where we have ChatGPT that can talk with humans, but quickly after they introduced these models, we saw that these AI tools, they became better and could solve PhD kind of tasks. And these days, we are talking a lot about AI agents that you can give tasks and then they can do something on behalf of you, but not necessarily in a chat environment, but just doing it behind the scenes. We are not entirely there where AI can create new innovations, but still you can see some signs that they can do new research and so forth. And we're not there where they can perform the work of entire organizations of people, but who knows, we might get there someday. This development of AI could also require something from us as humans. We have considered a little bit, what does this mean for us as humans? When you have a chatbot, you have to learn to use it, and that's mainly about prompting. But when you get really good AIs, you also have to consider the human-AI interaction. And we are kind of touching upon that a little bit because AI can be really good at something, even better than we are as kind of normal working people. So we have to explore the interactions between these two parts. When we have agents and they do something on our behalf, then we have to consider delegation. And we have to sense if it's a wise thing to let an AI do something when we're not entirely part of what they are doing. And we have to understand self-managing and perhaps even self-evolving systems. So that would require a little bit more of thinking about the ethics of using AI, when they can create new innovations and do something that we perhaps couldn't have thought of. Then we have to grow as leaders also. We have to set goals and develop strategies and know ourselves in terms of what is really important for us to get AI to do. And when they can perform work of entire organizations, then we have to ensure that what we set out to do benefit all of us. So we have to find out how can we contribute to the well-being of humanity and our fellow humans, because these can grow to pretty powerful tools. We could also put a more skeptical perspective on this, but we believe that there's a lot of good things that we can use AI for, and we just have to grow as humans as AI also develops and becomes more and more powerful. Why not start with something very concrete with our cross-functional teams? Because that's where a lot of people these days spend their time. They collaborate, they have roles and responsibilities, and they also, in many teams, work with improvement. And if we AI enable this team with AI assistants, could be from different roles, it could also be for the entire team, then our perspective on AI enabling teams is that it's a team effort. So it is something that we share as a team, is something that we work and develop with as a team when we introduce these AI tools. That being said, we're also going to discuss role-specific things today. So the role of a product owner could require some special perspectives and special help. But it should also be spread out in the team, and the team should also know about how the product owner is working with this new tool. So just a brief explanation of some of the AI techniques we're going to talk about today. We have some custom AIs where we put a role to an AI assistant that could be a powerful tool to use when we also build our prompts. Giving the AI tools and APIs is not something we are working on today, but in the future we will see that these AI is not just a chat functionality, it's also that they actually do things on behalf of us. And what is really important is to give the AI context and perhaps also learn the AI how they are going to solve these tasks, because they sometimes have a good point and sometimes they are also a little bit confused in my experience. And if we have one agent today, it could also be that we have several agents in the future, some that are specialized, some that are small, cheap, and then they can also work together.
And before Jesper carries on talking about how we suggest that you can use AI for the product owner role, I just want to very shortly just share with you some AI principles that we lean towards and have been doing throughout our work, very much inspired by Ethan Mollick, if some of you are familiar with professor and author Ethan Mollick. So we have 4 principles, and the reason for that is because things are changing all the time and evolving, like Jesper was showing before. So to have something to stick to and remind ourselves about what to take into concern when working with this, we're leaning towards these 4 principles. And the first one is around use AI everywhere. Experiment to learn and understand. So we're really trying to pick this up, reminding ourselves almost whatever we do, could we use AI just to get some insight? Sometimes it works, other times it doesn't, but that's one way to keep learning and also figuring out where the strengths and weaknesses are. Know where it can assist you. The more we use it, figuring out, so when does it become a help? Also know where it can work against you. So maybe where can it be a competition to what it is we do? Maybe some parts of the roles that we have at work, AI can do better. So rather know it so that we can work with it instead of against it. The other one that we constantly having with us is human in the loop. Always asking ourselves the question, where does it fit in? How can we interact with AI? Because it works best when we have human in the loop, using human judgment and expertise. I'm sure you all been familiar with trying to do a chat, and sometimes you get good answers and other times you need to put your own judgment in and expertise to really know if this is useful or if it's just making things up. Also remember that still, I would say, make you happy beats be accurate when it comes to AI. We see less of that, but still it's always a good thing to be reminded of. So therefore also to stay on the human side of this. And then also really to figure out how to put that into play. So how can we thrive as people as well when using AI instead of it just taking over or making us more and more dumb, like we also see a lot of research coming up about. And then also treat AI as a person. So recommendations about being thoughtful about what kind of person is it we treat it as. So is it an intern that's eager to give us questions rather than if they're right or not, but just really produce a lot of work? Sometimes that can be appropriate. Or is it more like a co-worker and a lot of what Jesper was saying that we're also exploring when looking into teams and how we can collaborate. Can AI be a co-worker in that context? Sometimes look at it as a teacher. It will teach you something and you can learn from there. Or it can be a coach helping you back and forth, figuring out a topic that you want to maybe evolve or that's something difficult at work. And finally, our 4th principle around being responsible. Of course, quite a huge topic, but some of them are around ethical AI design, being aware of the data that we work on so that it's not biased, making sure it's transparent so we know data is worked on, how it come to conclusions, and that we are in charge of it so we're able to explain how we're using it and the reasoning behind. Accountability and governance. So at the end of the day, we are accountable for how we're using it and can stand up for that. And by that also build a governance around it. Sustainability as a reminder to make sure that we are still aware of how we use it so that we use it wisely and don't burn off more CPU than we need to. So we use the right models at the right time. So that's our 4 principles. And And next to that, we have some guiding strategies that I just quickly want to share with you when looking into AI enabling of teams. Take a holistic approach to avoid amplifying silos. Bear that in mind also when we're talking product owner role today. We don't want to just have that as a norm, but we really want to make sure how we learn and share with each other and don't become new silos within teams. And also by that, having an awareness of that the roles and responsibilities may shift. So really figuring out how we do this cross-functional thinking, how can we hold on to that? And the second one is around making team members more knowledgeable, not making us all passive reviewers of AI output. So I'm sure you've all tried when you do a prompt and you get a lot of text and suddenly if we are not careful, we can become more of passive reviewers than actually interacting and being active around it. And then to do something to share the prompts, the tools, the settings, how we are doing things openly, again, to avoid the silos. And thirdly, the practice continuous transformation. We will claim that continuous improvement isn't enough when we're talking here because AI can reshape how we work. So we need to figure out how we regularly adapt the structures, the tools, and the responsibilities, because this is a transformation where we want to make sure we are humans in that big loop. So one profile of humans, Jesper, could be the product owners. What could be use cases?
Yes, what could be use cases for a product owner? Let's remember the overall purpose of a product owner is to maximize the value, taking the decisions about prioritization, what to do, what not to do, say no, delivering as much value as possible. We have a list of responsibilities here. It's not the only thing the product owners is doing. And then we'll see if we can AI enable these use cases. For creating a vision, yes, we can. AI can be a really good, you could say a partner, a co-worker with coming up with good ideas about how you can format it, what is it included, how you term it, and so forth. On ultimately deciding on the value that we deliver, I would say kind of a no. Of course, we could ask an AI, does this really give value? But at the end of the day, I would say that we have to be humans to decide on what is real value and what is perhaps not really valuable. And that's also some of the things that we believe that we have to be even more engaged in as humans, ultimately deciding what is valuable. More concretely, road mapping and forecasting. Well, I haven't really seen some good use cases for that. I did a roadmap today actually with a customer. Well, of course, we could have had AI to reflect on timelines and breakdown of things, but usually we do that as humans, and also forecasting into the future. We can get help, I would say, but I haven't really seen the really obvious use cases for that. And estimation is also a good discussion. Could we get AI to estimate what a team is going to deliver? Some teams would say, of course not. But I would say, well, we could perhaps explore it a little bit. It might have some perspective on estimation and be part of that. So I wouldn't rule it out. And what about brainstorming on ideas? Well, that's a clear yes. And this is also here where we are going to make a small prompting exercise. We will share a prompt, and I'll just explain the prompt first, and then you will try it out individually. So this prompt is a pattern that I call standard and innovative. When you get the prompt, you can fill in a problem or need from your own context. I would invite you to do that, but you could also use the standard one that is part of the prompt. What I ask the AI to do is to make a small problem deep dive and consider what is the real problem we are trying to solve here, and then come up with one standard solution and one innovative solution for this problem. This prompt is using a design thinker. So it's kind of a small role we give the AI. It's really good at brainstorming and finding smart solutions to fill in your own context, then remove this part of the prompt and fill in your own problem description. And I would invite you to do that because it's really fun to see what you get out of a prompt like this. You get a problem deep dive and then solution ideas. And I just say 2 solutions, one obvious and one innovative. A small example here on how it should answer this question here.
How did it go? Anyone who wants to share something of what you discussed?
Yeah, I'm planning a weekend trip to Norway, Sandefjord in Norway. And I have been looking a little bit into how to go back and forth and how to minimize the time I have to take out away from work. So the information I put in was actually how long time does it take to drive through Sweden and what time does the ferry leave from Oslo, Copenhagen. And it came up with two proposals and a map. And the map I would never use. I would be totally lost. I was surprised, or not surprised, but I liked was that it started by saying, but it assumes, analyzes that the underlying need here is to maximize your weekend while minimizing work disruption. You are essentially trying to optimize travel time versus enjoyment, balance cost, comfort, and efficiency, determine whether overnight ferry travel is preferable to daytime driving, and find the most strategic use of limited time, Friday evening to Sunday, Monday morning. The real challenge isn't just getting from point A to B, but creating a journey that feels like a proper weekend getaway, despite the time constraints. And I think that is interesting because I never said anything about that. I just put in the fact. So that is actually interesting that it comes up with some, oh, okay, maybe this is what you're trying to do.
Well, thanks for sharing.
I even asked it to limit the amount of words you can see here in the format. That usually works. And if I hadn't put it in, you could also try to omit it and see if it writes even more text. So that's how we try to control the output of AI assistants. Can we use this for brainstorming on ideas? Yes, we can. Can we explore user needs? Yes, we certainly can. We don't dive into that, but there's many ways of also getting a user perspective. You can give the AI roles and give an evaluation as a specific role, for example. Breakdown and splitting, that's what we're going to see at the end of today. Can we get AI to prioritize our backlog? Well, perhaps. I've tried it a little bit and prompts with prioritization, but you can get some perspectives, but I wouldn't kind of delegate the work of prioritization to an AI. Communicate with stakeholders and teams. Yes, that's for sure. And perhaps also getting user feedback when you have quantitative or qualitative feedback. Perhaps you look into data, for example. Yes, AI can be a really powerful tool for that. When you're a product owner, there's different techniques you can use to assess your user stories and features. And one of these techniques are called invest. So a user story has to be independent. That means that if we have two user stories, we can deliver them in any sequence, first A, then B, or the opposite, because they are not really dependent. It's also negotiable. That means that we are not really describing the solution, but the need here. And the solution itself can be negotiated because it might be that the team has a good idea about what is a good solution for this need. It has to be valuable, of course. Why else do it? And if the team can estimate these stories, they probably also have a good idea about if they cannot really give it an estimate, it's probably vague or it's not really easy to deliver. And if we can make it small enough to deliver in 2 weeks, then it's easier for the team to manage it and we can have a flow of work in the team. And if we can test it and the team understands how we can test this story, then we also have a good story. How does this user story fulfill the invest criteria? We will ask you to do that in a small breakout here with taking this user story and the invest criteria that I've just described, and then see if you can consider how does this story adhere to the invest criteria. And welcome back again here. So what did you discuss here with this story? Did it adhere to the invest criteria? Any thoughts on that?
Well, seeing that we had a lot of dependency to other user stories, so this thing about being standing alone might not be possible. Would it actually be made within 10 working days? Seems like quite a big task.
Yes.
And then all in all, we were very much worried about the security risk about this. Actually just sending mail out with a barcode on or something like that didn't seem that secure at all.
No. Funny enough, I actually tried this with a company, and I got an email with a QR code. So it is working today in some
Yeah,
organizations.
well, as we also discussed, we also get our tickets. That kind, right? So when we go into a theater, we just have a barcode sent, right?
What could happen if we ask a chatbot about this? Do they understand invest criteria? Yes, they do. Then they can actually come up with some good perspectives on the invest criteria. So there's a lot of text here, but I'll just break it down a little bit here, and I've highlighted parts of this. So I just gave it the story here and explain your suggestions. It said something about perhaps it's too big. You could actually put it into a separate story with the login requirements. So it's already beginning to see that this is actually a larger user story. It's not that small. Other things that also suggested here was that in terms of the estimate, we can see that if we clarify the format of the access card, probably it would help the team to give a more clear estimate. And testable. Well, what about how we're tracking sent access cards? So it's actually diving a lot into the details about what is not testable in this story, which is some really good perspectives. So I also asked it specifically to consider ways of making it negotiable, because I didn't think that it really had some good points in the first round about that. And then it quite clearly said that, the story and acceptance criteria has a single method of delivering the access card, but that's by email. But it could also be by another channel. It could be SMS, something that is perhaps more secure. So it also revised the storyline here. Perhaps it's not specifically about email, but it could also be other cost-effective methods and convenient for these users. Negotiable on the level of kind of channel, that's one level of negotiability, but there's also how the team would determine the QR code or the barcode or another form of digital identification. So that's also making it even more that the team can decide on that. So it understands that making something negotiable allows the team to choose the best solution. It's perfectly clear about understanding why we make it negotiable. Could you consider splitting it in several stories? That's what I asked it also. And yes, it quickly gave me a lot of different user stories. I'll not read the text here, but something with digital access card delivery, access right validation. It came up with approximately 6 user stories pretty quickly. And that was, of course, input for breaking this story further down. But because it's not that small, I asked it specifically, is it small? Can we do it within 2 weeks? And most people I've talked with about your user stories say, no, not really. And that's the same what this chatbot say. It's probably too ambitious to do it within 2 weeks. So we might as well try to split it. So is it valuable? I also asked it to dive more into that, because valuable is an important part. And what is interesting here is that it came up with different perspectives on other roles. I also asked it to consider other roles where it could be valuable. We have the investors, which are not really mentioned in the original user story. We also have a customer support team. So the customer support team might also have an idea about what is a good way of getting a new access card, because they have to help people with these access cards. And perhaps also an event management team if we have events at the company. So it really understands a lot about these invest criteria. And I also asked it the question I often ask in classes, if there's any conflicts between these invest criteria. So conflicts, so it's difficult to fulfill both of them at the same time. And it quickly, correctly said that making a story small enough to fit with a single iteration might lead to it becoming dependent on other stories to deliver full value. So it understands the invest criteria and also some of the trade-offs here. And it also knows something about vertical slices, how we can split things. One thing you can consider also when you want to get input is to create some custom DBTs. I've tried to make 2 of them. one that is more focused on UX and one about security. I'll not go deeply into the text here, but the security architect actually came up with some good things about threat modeling, encryption, and so forth. We'll share also the prompt that we used for creating this custom GPT in the afterwards. And a UX designer. UX is not my really strong area, so I can get a lot of help by asking a UX designer, perhaps in an AI assistant, about what do I need to consider when we have some real users here that has to use this system. And these two prompts, we'll also share the slide here, is how you can set up these custom GPTs, one for the security architect and one for the UX designer. And if you want to work with test scenarios, which is really a very obvious way of using AI, I just asked it to write some test scenarios, just one of them. And here we have a special one that is using the given when then syntax. That's just really helpful. We could do it ourselves, but it's really quick to get AI to do this. And of course, we have to review them afterwards and see if they are okay. The last thing we're going to do today is to use a tool that can AI generate a user story map and see how that works.
I just added some functionality that we are going to implement in our system to see if that actually could end up with something.
Yes, that's right.
It's more like an add-on, but
yeah.
It's a possibility to implement an attachments library where it should be possible to, of course, upload documents and so on. But these documents should be available when you are generating digital post to be attached to the digital post.
So it's kind of making an attachment library.
Yeah, an attachment library.
To upload documents to an email.
The letter itself, and then you have also the attachments as actually attachments included to them.
Let's see if it knows ebooks. I'm filling in the description here, and I call it attachment here. So let's see what happens here. First of all, it will kind of read through it, and then it will give a more thorough description of it. So they make a product summary, product statement, target users, key features, document upload, document management, public access, integration with ebooks. Let's see what happens. I copy this over to the description, and now I've just made a more thorough description of what I need. And then I'll click create, and let's see what happens. So a story map is a way of building a user workflow. So we're thinking about a user, taking the user perspective. So we would expect this tool here to give some kind of workflow, some steps for a user. That's at least what we normally use story maps for. And if we can see here, I have to select document to upload, manage uploaded documents, share documents, create folders, tag documents. So here you can really see the generative AI. It's filling in a lot of things here. Perhaps it's too much.
Yeah, we've never been finished with this.
No, exactly.
But it's possible to actually to decide what to actually dig into and what not to.
Yes.
Right. To scope the project.
So this is an interesting tool. I'm not saying it's a perfect tool at all.
No.
But the funny thing here is that, of course, they made a tool where you quickly can generate a story map and get some input for the stories that you're going to make. So this is a really big story map, I can tell you.
Yeah.
Now it's done.
Shit.
And a tool like this can also do other things. I could say, let's see here, preview document before upload. If I open this story, it has already written a storyline here. The things you get generated here is perhaps too much, but sometimes it can also give you a good perspective on what have I missed here? Anything I should kind of consider also. And one thing I would also ask you to do when you have seen this tool here is to consider what is the pros and cons of using a tool like this. Because we can quickly generate a lot of stories, but is it too many perhaps? And how do we use these stories afterwards? Perhaps you don't describe the stories in details in this tool, perhaps is another tool, or can we use this tool for this? So when we moving into the tools with AI, we often have to consider, is it really a good tool? It can help me with some things, but it could also be some drawbacks in terms of it's kind of tied me into working exactly like this in this tool. Because you can also use another tool like a chat, just simple chatbot, to generate these stories. But I would also say that this is kind of impressive and perhaps something to consider as a product owner. That was the last thing we're going to present today here. Got some inspiration on how you can use AI as a product owner.
If you want to meet with us again, perhaps just want to emphasize that in August, we're doing an on-site event, meeting up in Copenhagen, but where we want to see how we can learn AI with Legos, and that is kind of our identification as well. Thank you so much, and good to see you today.